Putin reiterates that Tomahawk missiles in Ukraine would ruin Russia-U.S. relations, and how Chinese reconnaissance satellites flew over Ukrainians west during Russia's overnight attack. We'll talk about this with political analyst, European Leadership Network, UK member Alexandra Filippenko. Alexandra, glad to see you, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Alexandra, Kremlin dictator Vladimir Putin has said that supplying American Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine would ruin relations between Moscow and Washington. Reported by Putin in a comment to Russian propagandist Pavel Zarubin, a quote, the supply of long-range systems to Ukraine, including Tomahawks, will lead to the destruction of the positive trends that have recently emerged in Russia-U.S. relations. Is this statement a strategic bluff aimed at deterring Western military support, or a genuine signal of escalation risk, in your opinion?
Well, in my opinion, it is something that Putin had to say. He had to say something, and this is merely something to my mind, because let's look at the statement itself, talking about Russian-American relations, talking about the deteriorating of Russian-American relations, and those positive trends that Putin saw somehow in those relations, in that relationship. I must say that we should also look at the facts. The facts are, right now, Russian-American relations are at a lowest point, I would say, since the height of the Cold War. And I might even argue that right now the relations are even worse that have been during the Cold War. And one of the biggest signals is there is a base, actual base, the diplomatic missions. The diplomatic missions, the embassy of Russia in the United States, the embassy of the United States in Russia. And we've seen throughout the years, since 2014, since the start of the war, and then since the start of the full-scale invasion of Ukraine, we have been seeing less and less people working in the embassies, less and less personnel, less and less opportunities for Americans in Russia, for Russians in the US, I mean, if they need something from their embassies. And right now, even Russian nationals cannot get visas for the United States in Russia. They should go to Poland, or they should go to Kazakhstan, someplace else, etc., etc. So right now there is even no possibility to get a visa in their country. And what does it mean? The diplomatic relations, these are the actual facts. This is how we know what kind of relationship does one country has with another. And what we've seen, for example, with Belarus. Belarus right now will see the restoration of the American embassy in Minsk. And with this example, we can really say, oh, there are different newer trends, positive trends. Of course, when we're talking about the dictatorship of Lukashenko, just like about the dictatorship of Putin, it's hard to say that anything might be positive. But if we look from the standpoint of the international relations, just leaving aside everything that's happening, leaving aside the war, leaving aside the political prisoners, etc., this is a positive trend for the relationship between Belarus and the United States. And if we look at Russia, nothing. No, it's not happening. We just seen less and less people working in the embassies, working in the Russian embassy in the United States, working in the American embassy in Russia, less and less people working there. And this is actually the real showing of what the relationship is. Of course, it's very nice to talk about showing patriotic films to the Russian patriotic, quote-unquote, films to the American audiences, American patriotic films to Russian audiences. That's what Trump and Putin talked about on the phone. Or, for example, hockey games between NHL and the Russian league, Russian hockey league. Okay, this is all nice discussions. These are nice things to talk about on the phone. But there is reality. And in reality, we don't see any positive trends in the relationship. No, nothing like that. So I don't know what Putin has been talking about. Where are those positive trends? I don't see them personally. And actually, the diplomats cannot see them. And those people who are in the international relations cannot see them. But he needed to say something. He needed to say something for his audience also. And look at how different his words are from what we have been hearing from Russian propaganda or Russian politicians on different propaganda channels throughout the full-scale invasion. Of course, when they talked about on Russian propaganda television, or well, any Russian television is propaganda, so on Russian news channels, state news channels, of course, when they've been talking about the Tomahawk missiles, they immediately were talking about nuclear weapons. Oh, there would be a horrible response. Nuclear weapons will be tactical nuclear weapons will be seen in Ukraine if something happens, if Ukraine gets long-range missiles. Nothing like that as of now. Nothing has been said, as if those long-range missiles, those Tomahawk missiles that everyone in Russia has been repeatedly saying that these are the reddest of the red lines, these are dark, dark red lines that no one can cross. No, nothing like that from Putin. So he had to say something. And this is merely something to my mind, because if we look at reality, there are no positive trends. And if we compare to what has been said about Tomahawk missiles, only if the United States think about giving Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine, the response would be horrible and things will deteriorate really fast on the battlefield, not in the diplomatic relations, on the battlefield. That's what we've been hearing from Russian propaganda and Russian politicians since 2022. And nothing like that from Putin. So this seems to me as a necessity to say something, at least something. And this something is very far from reality. And I think this, of course, has to do with the necessity to say something for the audience inside Russia, because the Americans, of course, know how the situation is on the battlefield and in real life, let's say. But also we must note that the U.S. inventories are tied up with the Navy needs, and the long-range opportunities are scarce, and it is rather unlikely that the Tomahawk missiles might be produced fast for Ukraine, although this policy shift is extremely significant. This does mean that the missiles will be there in a week, in a day, or in a matter of days, or in a matter of weeks, but the policy shift is what matters. And the Russian side sees it, and their reaction, they're very not that scary, I would put it this way. Reaction tells me that they are actually rather concerned.
Alexandra, but we see positive trend between Russia and China. At least 3 Chinese reconnaissance satellites flew over the areas in Ukrainians' west that were the main focus of Russian missile and drone attack on the night of the 4th to 5th of October, reported by Ukrainian military news outlet Militarny. What diplomatic tools does the White House have to pressure China to cease any military-related support to Russia? Should the U.S. consider imposing secondary sanctions on Chinese entities suspected of assisting Russian strikes, even indirectly?
What we've been hearing from China for a long time now is that private companies can do whatever they want, but the government is not assisting Russia militarily. Of course, private companies are selling drones, or were selling drones to Ukraine and to Russia. Those private companies are just making money. It's all about the money. The American side understands it very well, of course, especially the Trump administration. But, of course, the government has been very powerful in saying that they are not helping Russia in any way, and they are trying to continue in their insistence on the fact that no, Beijing is not helping Moscow in any way. But what we are seeing right now, this also plays into the hand of, for example, State Secretary Marco Rubio, who repeatedly has said that if China is helping Russia openly, if China is helping Russia in a way that can be seen and can be actually caught, if we quote Marco Rubio, that's what he's been saying. If China is helping up until that point that they get caught, they don't want to get caught. But now it looks like they are getting caught right now, and they are getting caught during a very, very specific period of time, while the negotiations, the trade negotiations between Beijing and Washington are ongoing. And those negotiations, as we've heard from different sources, were not too successful for the American side. And the American side could not push China enough, and they could not get from China what they really wanted. But right now, the United States seem to have some leverage. They seem to have some real leverage thanks to Ukrainian military and thanks to Ukrainian special services that are really uncovering the situation with China and what is happening with China. So that might be leverage for the United States to get something out of China and to get China to push Russia actually, and to influence Russia economically, first of all. So since China has been saying, no, you cannot impose sanctions on us, or you cannot do anything, no new tariffs on China, because the official government, of course, and no one is helping Russia in any way. Right now, we are seeing some changes. So it is to me, I think that it is unlikely that President Trump would openly criticize China on that. But this will be a big joker card, or a trump card, if you will, for the American delegation discussing trade negotiations with China. Of course, this is a great opportunity for them to say that, all right, we will not impose new sanctions, but you would need to do this, this, and that, and you cannot buy that many resources from Russia anymore, or you should buy resources from some other places in the world, or maybe they will also get an opportunity to, not wage war on Maduro, but at least for China not to be that supportive of the Maduro regime. Of course, China will never support a war with the Maduro regime, but maybe they won't be that much of a help for Caracas in case Donald Trump decides on some military action on the territory of Venezuela. As of now, China has been very powerful in supporting the Maduro dictatorship, and maybe this will also help the United States to, let's say, get China away from the Latin American continent, so the American continent in general, and from Latin American countries, rather. So I think this is great leverage for the United States right now for the negotiations, but I don't believe that we will see any criticism openly. I don't think that President Trump will use this as an opportunity to criticize China. Of course, Marco Rubio, the state secretary, might do that, but for President Trump, this is a great joker, a great card to play in the game of negotiations, the trade negotiations with China. And I think we will see the result of that when we know the result of that negotiation, when we will see the contracts between the United States and China, when we'll see the agreements between the United States and China, and we might see it as soon as the end of October.
Alexandra, in the fourth year of full-scale invasion of Ukraine, Russia continues to receive foreign components for the manufacture of weapons. According to President of Ukraine, Vladimir Zelensky, during the massive combined strike on Ukraine on the night of October 5th, Russia used 549 weapons containing 102,785 foreign-made components These components were manufactured by companies in the United States, China, Taiwan, the United Kingdom, Germany, Switzerland, Japan, South Korea, and the Netherlands. Are these components entering Russia through third countries or via parallel import schemes involving neutral or allied states? What mechanisms exist for tracing and auditing the end use of sensitive dual-use technologies?
So right now, when we see those facts, when we see this reality, we must say that quoting President Trump becomes more and more usual. And we can say that, look, President Trump has said something to the effect of European countries waging a war against themselves or sponsoring a war against themselves during his General Assembly speech. And now it is true also, as we can see, for the United States, because yes, we are seeing the facts. So we are seeing that in that parallel imports, in those through third countries, in those pathways from the United States, from the United Kingdom, from the Netherlands, from other different countries. Well, if we talk about China, this is not that weird as I can put, but it is really strange to see components from the United States, from the United Kingdom, from the Netherlands, from, let's put it this way, the coalition of the willing in Russian military objects and in Russian arms, actually. So what we understand is that, of course, this is a parallel import. This is import through third countries. So how can this be traced, and how, most importantly, can this be stopped? As of now, those parallel imports and those ways of parallel imports resemble the ways of importing and exporting drugs. This is illegal. This is fully illegal, of course, for those companies. And we cannot say that those companies really know where the weapons are coming to, or the elements of the weapons are going to. Of course, they are, first of all, they most probably they are going to some post-Soviet countries. We don't know which exactly. So right now, many countries and special services, special forces of those countries are working on figuring out how to stop it and how not to bend the situation too far, and how not to go too far, not to overstep, and not to, let's say, put in danger the countries through which the weapons are, or the elements of the weapons are coming to Russia, because also we cannot know, and no one as of now, since there right now it's merely investigations, no one right now can say that the governments of those countries have anything to do with it. Of course, no one is saying it, and right now those investigations must take place for the countries that produce those elements of those weapons, to understand how those elements of the weapons are coming to Russia. And this is an effort of many, many countries. This must be an effort of many, many countries. And this definitely, I don't think that it can be stopped as of now. It cannot be stopped, I'm afraid, just by one decree or some other decree by one country or the other country. But it gives everyone an understanding how global the war is, and how global this is, and how difficult it is to follow where the weapons are actually going to, while those countries continue to produce those weapons or elements of those weapons. So again, this is very important to generally talk about it and realize that this must be stopped. This must be stopped, and this must never happen again. And Russia's war against Ukraine, as Russia's war or potential war against any other NATO country or European Union country or any other country in the world, is already a global war. This is not just happening between Russia and Ukraine. This has to do with many, many countries that cannot even trace where their production is going to. And this of course shows the level of globalization, and this shows the level of the impossibility to trace, just like some countries cannot trace where the drugs are coming from or where the drugs are going to. So this, of course, the effort of many, many countries needs to happen, and of course, many countries needs to try to trace it, and most importantly, try to stop everything that is happening.
Alexandra, despite the ongoing challenges outlined by President Volodymyr Zelensky, with Russia continuing to use thousands of foreign-made components in its weapons, there remains a strong belief and hope that international cooperation, stricter enforcement of sanctions and increased vigilance will lead to significant changes. We trust that the global community will intensify its efforts to close loopholes, hold accountable those who facilitate these transfers, and ultimately cut off the critical supply chains that enable Russia's continued aggression. Through unity and determination, positive change is possible, and a future where such support is fully halted can be achieved. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today. I need to say that Alexandra Filippenko, political analyst and member of the European Leadership Network UK, was with us today. We truly appreciate your expertise and thoughtful analysis. Wishing you all the best and see you.
Thank you very much. See you soon.